Welcome back to Nutrapreneur, the hub for unveiling groundbreaking insights into the nutraceutical industry. I'm your host, Bethany. Today, we have the pleasure of speaking with Mariette Abrahams, CEO and founder of Qina. With over 10 years of experience in the nutrition industry and a PhD in personalized nutrition, Mariette is a pioneer in bridging the gap between research, consumers, and practitioners. At Qina, they specialize in developing strategies, conducting research, and providing domain expertise in the personalized nutrition space. Welcome, Mariette. It's so great to have you today.
Thank you, Bethany. Thanks for having me.
First off, I think it would be great if you could share with us the inspiration behind founding Qina and your journey from its inception to leading this innovative company.
Yeah, so my background is actually in nutrition. So I trained as a dietitian, and I thought my career path was quite straight, that I would, specialize in something and then go on to maybe be a manager or do a PhD. And it didn't actually turn out that way. So clinical wasn't the big dream that eventually when I did it, I was like, I don't think this is going to be the rest of my life. And so I've always been a little bit, entrepreneurial, I guess. And so I already looked, like within the first 6 months, I looked into, okay, what else can I be doing that can complement my nutrition background? And then somebody suggested, why don't you do an MBA? And that kind of changed the course of where I thought I was heading. And so the MBA then opened up a whole new world for me in terms of looking at how you can, spot opportunities, the way you think, the way you can create, creatively problem solve. And then I ended up in industry. So I moved from the kind of clinical public health area to then the industry. And that really then shifted the career trajectory completely. But at that time, when I moved into industry, it was kind of using a combination of my nutrition and my MBA then. And I was already specializing in this area, inflammatory bowel disease, which was really looking at, does genetics play a role in individuals having flare-up in Crohn's disease? And so that piqued my interest into, hey, genetics is coming up and this nutrigenetics area is like really interesting. And that got me onto, okay, personalized nutrition, this is really the thing. And it wasn't really coined even personalized nutrition at that stage. So this was around 2012. And then I ended up moving to Portugal. And then I honestly, I couldn't find a job because I moved to a country where I didn't speak the language, where really there isn't really an entrepreneurial network so I was looking at what can I do? And I thought, oh, well, maybe like really honing in on this personalized nutrition area. This is kind of it. So I started doing some consultancy projects and then it like all fell together. And it's like, this is it. This is the area. Now it combined my entrepreneurial spirit with my nutrition background and starting something completely new using my business skills. And that's how it started. And so I kind of started consulting with biotech companies, with nutrition companies, and then it kind of expanded. And by 2018, then I was, okay, well, maybe it should be a formal company now. And that's how it became Qina. So before it was all like freelance consulting. And then by 2019, it got official with then naming the company Qina. And that's how we started. So it was then, cumulative, knowledge, all the that's okay. This is really a thing here. There's a gap. There's a real gap here, and that's where it's like, okay, this is it. This is the area that I'm going to focus on.
Yes. And I think, personalized nutrition is something that everyone is talking about these days. And how has Qina managed to stay ahead in the competitive personalized nutrition market?
Yeah, I think we are different in that we didn't come from marketing. We didn't come from fighting. Like we actually came from nutrition. So we were already doing personalized nutrition, since graduating. And that really meant kind of personalizing the dietary and lifestyle advice that you give to someone based on who's in front of you. So you would look at their social determinants. You would look at, their lifestyle. You look at, what are the barriers to making behavior change. What makes personalized nutrition different is that we didn't have technology at that stage. So we had paper diaries, we had, paper files, we wrote out, handwritten notes or maybe printed out. That was the technology. Our printers were our technology. And all of a sudden, you have apps that can track. You have intake forms that you can, send to somebody before they come into clinic. So we were really focusing on kind of dealing with individuals who were already sick. Yeah, they already had some kind of a disease or condition. And now the opportunity is leveraging technology to really personalize that advice by making it more actionable, by making it more personalized, by understanding how people really behave in the real world. Because people come into clinic every 2 to 3 months, you don't really know what they are doing in between. You don't really have an idea unless you do a blood test or unless you put them on the scale, or give you some kind of a hint that actually they're following the advice. Otherwise, you don't know. But now technology gives you the opportunity to see what they're eating in real time. They can send you pictures. You can give feedback in real time. They can step on a scale and they can send the, blood pressure, all these different things. And that's really where we saw the opportunity, and saying there's an opportunity to combine what we already know from the clinical setting, what works and what doesn't work, to combining the scientific knowledge and seeing what is coming out in the science, to really understanding what do consumers really do in the clinic, because we know what kind of questions they really are asking in the real world. And then combining that with, okay, we can see what's happening. We know why it's happening. We can, put that in a scientific context. But then how do we then help industry to create new products to take those insights into their roadmap, for example. And that's where we are different. So we can have analytical brains, but we also think in the real, human sense, and have empathy in terms of, no, people are not going to cook a new recipe every single day. It's just not doable if you're a busy mother or father who works 10-hour shifts or something like that. So it's really bringing the scientific expertise and then trying to see how you convert that into kind of digital features or behavior change techniques to then help people understand what they need to do. And so we were really ahead because we spotted the gap, but then we also can see, okay, we understand data, we understand science, and we understand humans. Humans change, data changes, but if you can make sense of those three things, and also I would say the fourth one is, how does that impact society as a whole? That's where we are different. And that's where we are not a standard communications agency, or we are not a standard market research company, or we are really a combination of the things that have already existed, the services that have already existed, but created or carved out a new niche for ourselves.
Absolutely. And personalized nutrition, I think, as you described it, it's very complex. And
yes.
Can you explain the role of the Qina platform and how it helps companies develop personalized nutrition solutions?
Yeah, so the platform came out only in 2021, so it's still relatively new, but it was kind of a build up of all the knowledge that we gained over the last 10 years, say, from understanding what kind of questions do companies have, like what keeps coming up, and so the same questions came up. What do you think are good companies? What do you think? Who do you think are the good stakeholders in the ecosystem? Who do you think? And so it was like, well, every time you're jumping on these calls and you're answering the exact same questions, and we said, we need a platform. We need like a way of tracking what's happening in the marketplace and how are companies evolving, and then how is the industry evolving. And that's really what the platform did. So it started off as a spreadsheet, so we could keep on going back to the spreadsheet, like, what was the name of the company again? What was that study again? Or who published that again? Or what did they add again? And so the platform was really, it evolved from our own knowledge, and then it could help companies to then easily find, companies in a specific segment. And so at the moment, how it helps the companies is, number one, they can find who is in the competitive landscape, because even with personalized nutrition, it's a new area, right? It's not wellness, because wellness isn't necessarily scientifically oriented. We think of personalized nutrition as something that's really rooted in the scientific evidence base, even though it's still new. And so that's why companies need to know what is personalized nutrition and who is actually playing in the industry. So that's the first thing. So they can find out who is in the industry, what do their solutions entail? Like, what do they even offer? Like, how does personalization even happen? Like, is it by survey? Is it by a blood test? Is it by, like, how does it happen? But then they can also understand why it's happening. So we provide insights into the company so that they know, okay, well, if we're going to create something, we're not just creating a me too of something that's already existing, because what's the point, right? We need actually better products. So it can help them to position themselves, knowing who's in the industry and why are they industry in the first place. So, like, why did that happen? Why is there interest in menopause, for example? Why is the growth in active nutrition happening? And so we provide the market intelligence of the competitive players, but also insights into the marketplace. And then also we want to be a kind of a benchmark for companies within the industry. So we have created a Qina score, which ranks companies on different criteria. So if companies come to us and say, well, there are 5 companies in the segment, who should I work with? Then we can say, well, this one is actually, I would say, ranks high in terms of science because they published it. They validated maybe their algorithm, maybe they've partnered with specific, or maybe their product is more actionable, and that's why consumers like it so much. The UX is better, or they're good on privacy. And so we've taken these different categories, so it helps companies to see if they have a product, how do they rank in terms of the segments amongst their competitors. But it also helps to raise the bar in terms of, what do you need to do to get an A grade, for example. So it raises the bar for everybody as a whole. So this really can then be used not only for industry, but also for practitioners who may be sitting in the clinic thinking, hey, somebody just walked in and bought this test, but, what does it do and how does it work? And why does it even exist? How credible is it? And so it helps them as well. And so that's how it helps companies to innovate, to know what's going on in the market, also to get insights, but also how do they position themselves with a new product. And then
this episode is brought to you by NutraPayments.com. If your business needs credit card processing that fully integrates with most major Nutra software platforms, offers the lowest industry prices, and has built-in features like recurring billing, $0 trials, and chargeback prevention, then visit us at NutraPayments.com for a free online quote.
How does that rank in the marketplace with their new solution?
That's great. It sounds like the platform is a great tool for multiple types of users. So
yes.
That's great.
Yes. I mean, we really try to be a hub that can connect the consumers with industry and healthcare, because of my background, we are sitting a little bit more in healthcare than we sit in, like, what is the latest food flavor that you need to create. We are not there. We are definitely more on how can we help industry create better products, and how can we help practitioners to recommend those products that are rooted in the evidence base, so that we can help society be healthier. That's essentially the impact that we would like to have.
Absolutely. And we've kind of touched on this a bit already, but the personalized nutrition market is rapidly evolving. So how has Qina leveraged data and technology to stay at the forefront of this industry?
Yeah, I mean, so because of our background, we've always been the one data point I would say has always been science. Like, what is the science? How was the science conducted? How relevant is this for the individuals that you are maybe recommending the advice for. But what's new is now, of course, people don't work or operate in silos. Yeah. So now individuals are looking for not only the scientific expertise. So why should I be eating in a certain way, or specific products or specific ingredients? But I also have a wearable, I also have sensors. I also have, specific needs that I have. And so this data can come from food diaries. It can come from image logging. It can come from your smartwatch, for example. It can come from your, scales, devices at home, for example. So we are living in a world where actually having things automatically recorded, having data automatically recorded becomes real. Where it becomes more difficult is, how do we make sense of that data? How do we know that you need this kind of because we are not there yet from a scientific point of view. So for us, how we've leveraged data is not only to track the market intelligence Yeah, we also track the science and what's happening in the industry, for example, and we make sense of that by leveraging AI, for example, natural language processing, to then combine these disparate data sets to say, hey, what has happened in the last 6 months and why did it happen? And then it can say, well, actually, these companies got more investment and over the last 6 months, and this seems to be the area that then we can see that is getting most investment is, for example, food as medicine. Let's say that for the last, 6 months, food as medicine is really trending. And the reason why it's trending is because we can see from an ROI perspective, like return on investment, the stakeholders that are involved, the events that are happening. This is what's really driving the momentum in food as medicine. And that's how we make sense of the data points. If you are just focusing on one area and just looking at the science, you're missing everything else. And so you can see that just taking food as medicine as an example, the regulators are on board, the NIH is on board, academics are on board, the practitioners are on board, the insurers are on board. So if you are just focused on the science, you're going to miss it. And that's why AI gives you that opportunity to then connect the dots to make sense of it and then serve it up as a report or as a presentation. And that's really where, so that's one area where we really leverage AI, because we collect the data, we curate the information just on personalized nutrition, and then we actually then have a tool, which is called Qina, where you can then identify what are the hidden patterns and trends based on specific categories. So if you want to know what's happening in metabolites or what's happening in symptoms or conditions, then you can do that based on, what you are looking for. But we've also leveraged AI in with all the content that we have created in the last 6 years is putting ChatGPT 4 on top of our curated library. Because now, if you're a busy executive, you don't have time to read through all our 30-page, 60-page reports. So you can now just ask a question because we've done the legwork, we've done the homework, we've done the deep dives in looking into specific areas. So ChatGPT is another one. So that, kind of powers the chat function. But we also use sentiment analysis, like how do people feel about microbiome testing? How do people feel about, a specific topic? That's another way. And then we can also see topic modeling, for example. So we can see, well, over the last 6 months, food as medicine has increased, but so has metabolites, and so has maybe sensors, or CGMs. And there's really a connection between the evolution of these different areas. So that's also another area. And then we use natural language processing also for helping us with our qualitative research. So if we do, interviews, for example, as part of projects, then that helps us together with our domain expertise to quickly, I would say, validate. So we do our analysis first, and then we see, AI sometimes comes up with more ideas or more, it can really remove some of that bias that we already have from using our nutrition, background. And that's another way we use it. So there are different ways. And of course, this is how we also learn to say, hey, actually, I didn't know we could use it in this way. I didn't know we could use it in this way. And it's just opening up so many different ways. And that's how we stay ahead because we are doing it. It's not just a hypothetical, let's just, plug AI in there and just see what happens. It's actually a use case where we see, actually, here's a gap, or here we can automate. And that's how AI machine learning has really helped us to kind of be at the forefront and still be the only platform that really curates and connects all these different data points specifically in personalized nutrition. I hope that answers the question.
Yes. No, AI, I mean, it just fascinates me how far it's come and how it can be utilized by so many different industries. It's incredible.
Right. Yeah. The potential is huge. But like I said, there's too many people that say, oh, I use AI when actually it's not AI. Or I'll just create something and this, put AI on it. Well, it doesn't mean that it's going to be successful. And we can, because we use it ourselves, we know if it's not, spitting out a correct answer, or if something is not right, or, and that's where you still need the human in the loop. And we can definitely see that. From an operational, efficiency, I kind of feel like, how can you do without it?
I know. I use it almost daily now. So, yes. But it's important that you're still, fact checking everything. Yes. It's in case, because, there still can be some hiccups with technology.
Exactly. Absolutely. And we also think it's important, because our library is created by, some of our content that we write. So we can guarantee that, okay, if you look at where did it come from, well, there is always a reference. So that it always tracks back to where did you get that information? How did you come up with that answer? And that is very important, especially here as we are now. So our our Qina does not really hallucinate. It will say, well, we don't really have that answer. Maybe you should look on, on Google or on this area. But it won't hallucinate, because if we didn't do it, then we don't have it. We've had some people, asking some highly scientific questions on it, and it will say, no. We can't answer that question because ours is really industry specific.
Yes. And Qina also collaborates with various stakeholders in the food and beverage and ingredient and health industries. So can you share with us any particular success stories from these collaborations?
Yeah, I mean, I can obviously just give you high level ideas of the kind of things that we work with. So I would say the most important point about working with these kind of companies, they are really, really open to try new things. So that I would say is those are the kind of companies that we attract, and we love working with them. Because as you noted also, personalized nutrition is still new. And so what we know is that consumers are really looking for kind of this holistic, improvement of their health. They're looking at how can I use digital to kind of track if it's working, if it's not working, where should I improve, where can I do less, and knowing that I'm on the right track. So some of these food and ingredient companies are looking at, okay, so just getting, doing focus groups and then putting out a product out there is like, it's not working, or we need newer ways of doing that. And that's where we come in. So we can really do kind of job to be done interviews to look at what are consumers, sometimes practitioners, really doing, what are they really thinking, what do they see as kind of the barriers for, what are they using, even how are they doing things? Because most of the time, a lot of these companies don't go out of the building. So it's kind of like well, we are in the room and we've done all this research, but nobody actually talks to consumers. Like, what do you actually do? So one of the things that I absolutely love about these kind of projects is starting off with these job to be done interviews, and then also kind of knocking our own bias out the door and saying, okay, actually, we are also wrong. So those are the kind of really job to be done interviews that then feed into kind of scoping out a project. So you really start from scratch, scoping out the project. Then we manage the project, we execute the project, and then we actually also get to write up the project and say, okay, why did it work? Why didn't it work? And we help the companies to find stakeholders in the industries, find these innovative startups that have developed a tool or an app or a platform or some kind of a, innovation that is really on the ground. Let's say they are really very much closer to the consumer than some of the bigger, I would say, food companies or ingredient companies are. So that's where we are the connection. And that's why I say that's where really some of these successful projects come off is really to not be some kind of a innovation company that says, okay, give us, and then we just execute and we'll come and report back in 6 months. We are in touch with our clients every week, every 2 weeks, we update, we say there's a problem here, we should shift it this way, this is really up and coming. And so it's really evolving, and those are the most successful project. But I must say, again, it is a big leap for companies, legacy companies, to shift into a more agile, being more in the real world, understanding and accepting that digital and direct to consumer is kind of the way forward. People check everything. People research, they compare, they will do their research for months on end before they invest in a brand or a product or some kind of a new innovation. And so this is the world that we know. They read feedback. They will check on, every platform. And so if you don't have the data in terms of, transparency and efficacy, done the work, then you're going to be into trouble, because now people have the tools to check. And these tools exist. There's, of course, a lot of controversy around how validated are they, how accurate are they. But as you can see from AI, it's out there. And as it learns, it's learning faster, and it's learning at a faster pace. And so that's what companies have to deal with. It's not the age-old, taking, a year, 2 years to launch a new product. It's like being on top of what are consumers saying, what are they needing, what do they want, what are they crying out for? And that's where we can connect the dots from our scientific expertise and translating it into a business solution.
Yes, and you bring up a lot of great points, and I think consumers are becoming more educated, and
Absolutely.
it's easy to read reviews. It's easy to see things that consumers like and what they don't like and what they'd like to see in the market.
Yeah, absolutely. The times have completely changed from our paper, like do this, go to the shelf and buy that. It's completely changed.
Yes. And so, how do you ensure Kina's services remain innovative while adhering to rigorous standards and consumer needs?
Yeah, I think that's a very, very good point because, like I said, if you just focus on the science, you're going to lose the rest of it.
Mhm.
So, of course, we found that we had to learn a lot about regulation because personalized nutrition, it kind of sits at this intersection where you're thinking about, functional food. So, yeah, because people want to have food and beverages that have health benefits. Well, in that case, companies work in one kind of regulatory area. But if you're advising people on, reducing their cholesterol or their blood pressure, then you are playing in the medical nutrition area again. And then if you have an app that, that delivers that advice and uses blood tests or anything like that, then you're a medical device again. So we've just found like all of a sudden this regulatory area that we are not trained in is impacting personalized nutrition. And now we have AI and AI ethics that is coming in as well. So we keep a close eye on what regulation is coming in. We are active in some kind of, especially in AI ethics that we are really passionate about. So we are involved in some of these working groups. And so we do keep an eye on what is happening and sharing that information with, our subscribers and our clients. And we, of course, have partnerships with other companies who specialize in regulation that we can always divert companies into. But things like privacy is a hot topic, wherever you are. But especially as it pertains to personalized nutrition, because sometimes you're working with personal data, sometimes you're working with, biological data. And so we don't work with it personally. But of course, if you're going to help companies to collaborate with each other, those two will need to make sure that they understand that data. And does the consumer know that their data is being shared? So there's a lot of, things to consider. And of course, we keep an eye on or keep up to date on what is the latest regulation, who does it impact, which kind of vertical does it impact, and knowing what to advise and when to, divert or get, professionals, consultants or lawyers involved in the conversation. But yeah, I would say it's an area that personalized nutrition is still new. And so even the regulators are catching up with how do we regulate this area? Should we regulate it or should we keep it? It's a largely still unregulated area because it's such a gray zone in between food and health, really. But of course, people will be catching up. And so that's why we stay at the forefront while everybody's learning. We are very strict on GDPR as our main one because, of course, people sign up to the platform. That's good. If we have projects, that is GDPR. We work a very, very secure environment in terms of how we collect data and who we work with. And so, yeah, but on the other hand, it's mainly advisory on our account.
Yes. And transparency and education are core values for Kina. So, how do you promote understanding of personalized nutrition's benefits to the public?
Yeah, so we have we've been involved, or still are involved with a number of initiatives. So one of the areas we're involved in is the personalized nutrition initiative at University of Illinois, actually, in Chicago. So they are like academic industry collaboration or initiative that really helps to not only conduct research in the area of personalized nutrition and sponsor research projects, but also developing public-facing modules. So at the moment, looking at developing Coursera course for the public on personalized nutrition. So I am delivering a few modules on, what personalized nutrition is, why it's important, how is it evolving, what kind of, devices, solutions out there for people who are looking for personalized nutrition, and what the future looks like. But then also, I also lecture at university, looking at, behavioral design thinking for nutrition students who, of course, are very strongly trained on the nutrition side, but not really on the technology and kind of design side, innovation side. So that's another area. And then one of the other really, really exciting things that we are working on is MIT has got a nonprofit arm that is looking at developing a data nutrition label that helps companies and the public to really know where the data source comes from that trains the AI algorithm. So like you have a food label where you know these are your protein, carbs, and fats and, micronutrients, now we can also know which data sets have been used to actually train this AI algorithm. So if I used a study where the research was done in China, it will not be relevant to you. So if that label then says, well, the AI uses the data set from this study and the humans actually that were part of the study were Chinese, then, actually, well, this product might not be relevant to me. Or, it's not representative in terms of the conclusions that were made in terms of the research. And that's really exciting, I think, because AI is a reality that we're going to face. Yeah. And like I said, you can have your electronic health record, connected to your Fitbit data and your wearable or anything. But once they start talking together, only through AI will you be able to make sense of this. So if you're going to provide recommendations based on that, you need to know if those recommendations come actually from reliable data and that was ethically collected as well. And that's representative. And that's a really exciting area that we are working with, because it works both with AI is known to be kind of a black box. And so you can't interrogate the algorithm. You don't know how companies came up with a recommendation. Like, oh, it's IP. But if there's a label, at least you can say, okay, well, you use these different, or you use this kind of, genetic data or microbiome data, blood banking, whatever the case might be. And so I think that's a really exciting development. So we are really looking at using our Qina score in combination with the data nutrition label and helping them to kind of make the solutions in the area, in the industry, more transparent about the data that they're actually using to provide recommendations. Because if people look at their smartphone and it says, hey, eat 5 apples, sometimes, not everybody, but, you need to question where those recommendations came from, right? You can't just jump 5 times. Okay, maybe not so bad, but if you're going to tell me to eat in a specific way for the next 2 or 3 weeks or a month, I would want to know why. And so that's really where we are heading. And so while we are really, really early in the journey, it's important to plant the seed about this is how we can help to make AI solutions or personalized nutrition solutions more transparent, so that if we're going to build trust, not only from consumers, but also from practitioners, we need to have some kind of a label to make sure that everybody knows exactly, in an easy way, in a very understandable way, know what it actually means. And that's what we really are working towards as well.
Yes. And I know you've probably had to navigate a lot of different challenges in this rapidly growing market. So, what advice can you give to budding entrepreneurs looking to enter the personalized nutrition space?
Yeah, I mean, I would say, I always like to say, when I started in the industry, there were about 12 companies in the industry. We are now almost on 700. With a lot of closures as well, right? It's not like everybody that was in 2012 is still around. So the market has really evolved. It's really been very dynamic. But one of the consistent things that has come through, I would say over the last few years, is personalized nutrition is nothing if you don't have behavior change. So if you can't help people to make a change in terms of their behavior, then it's just data. You're just collecting your Fitbit and your blood test, and you're just collecting stuff, but you're not going to act on it. So unless company make it actionable in the way that it is relevant to the individual, then we're not going to get anywhere. That's number 2. So you need to have behavior change built into your solution if you're going to develop anything. The second thing is, if it's not affordable, then it's not going to work either. Because if you're going to make, the people who can pay 500, 600, 700 for a solution, they're already healthy. They're already invested in their health. So unless you are thinking more broad spectrum and think, how can you really make an impact, you need to think about how you crack the problems of how we can address health and social impact by, creating more affordable solutions. That's I would say, the second thing. The third thing now where this is, I would say, the third phase that we have now is efficacy. Once this shiny tool syndrome has worn off, people want to see efficacy. They want to see that actually what it says on the tin actually works. And we've had so many, reviews or reports now that some of these apps don't actually have any meaningful benefit to them. They don't have, result in significant weight loss, for example. They don't result in significant change in biomarkers. And so unless we can demonstrate that having some kind of a digital actually works, at the moment we know it works best with human interaction, you're not going to work. So don't create a solution that is just app and you think, I'm just going to push it into the world and people will love it and they will just follow the advice and it's hunky-dory. It just doesn't work like that. So don't create a me too. Always design with behavior change at the beginning. Think of how you're going to demonstrate efficacy, and it needs to be affordable. And always work with experts.
Yes, definitely. Yes, that is all great advice. Well, thank you once again, Mariette, for joining us today and for sharing Qina's captivating journey and how you are redefining personalized nutrition. For listeners that are eager to explore Qina further or to review their services, we've provided the necessary links. Do subscribe, drop in your thoughts, and join us in spotlighting the nutraceutical world on social media. Until our next episode, stay informed and inspired in the vast expanse of nutraceutical innovations.